Just welcome everyone. It's great to see so many of you on here. People that I know are really going to make this evening something special. So just to begin with, I have got a few slides on the pioneers of our game, something that is hugely important for Black History Month, is particularly with the celebration, to look at how far we've come. So no further ado, we've got the Black players who have represented the para football sides. So we've got Alistair Patrick Helsington, we've got Martin Sinclair and Asnaf. Following them, we have Ibrahim Diallo and Daniel Hogan. As for the ladies, we've had various number on here. So we've got Hope Powell, Anita, Leanne Sanderson, Nikita Paris, still currently playing, Eniola Aluko, Mary Phillip, along with Sammy Britton, Alex Scott, Jess Clark, and Rachel Yankee, to name a few. So there we go. So once again, welcome. Thanks everyone for logging on. As we say, celebrating and moving forward together. That's what we're going to highlight tonight. So to begin with, could I just ask that you keep yourselves on mute if you're not speaking, just so we don't get any interference. At any point, you can use the chat box to ask questions. That'd be great. I'll be monitoring the chat box. And if you have any technical issues, if you have my number, you can give me a ring or just drop it in the chat box, and I'll see how I can help. So going on from that, I'm very pleased to be joined by Bobby, who's going to be introducing the event.
Well, I want to take the opportunity to welcome everyone to Bedfordshire FA's celebration of Black History Month. It's something that, as a county, we like to think we celebrate all year round in terms of the positive impact of Black players, volunteers and coaches, and everyone involved in football. As the chair of the IA, the Inclusion Advisory Group, it's a real honour for me to actually be in the company of so many, a stellar cast, as I called it earlier, and I'm really looking forward to hearing experiences from all of you. And so we're going to use this opportunity really to talk about what's been positive in our county, what's been positive with the experiences that the people on here are going to share. And I think one of the first things that I want to begin with is, in terms of my introduction, is, and the next person on after me, and it falls in nicely, is to talk about kind of, I guess, the positive impact that Black players, for example, and the whole situation around inclusion has had on me personally. Now, I grew up in Luton, in an area, a council estate really, where it was not uncommon and quite scary to find dead dogs as I woke up in the morning in our front garden and watching my dad dispose of that, having racist graffiti on my windows, which was a common theme, dog excrement through the letterbox, as well as fireworks, all because we were different. We were one of a few families in that area at the time that were non-white, and you know, we had to go through a lot of really challenging times. Football was my outlet, whether it's playing in the park, where to some degree I was accepted, and watching football, I wasn't able to actually go to watch a professional game because my dad wouldn't allow it. You know, the racism, the threat of me being hurt. So the closest I could get to that was maybe watching adult football in the park. Now, the plan was to get up early either on a Saturday or Sunday, because I knew the night before, followers of the National Front were probably having a lie-in after a late night. That was my thinking. In view of that, I was able to walk to a park in the Lucy Farm area where I grew up, called Lucy Park, to actually watch an adult football game. And it was one of these mornings. I got up earlier one Saturday or Sunday, I can't remember, but literally walked down there. It was the only time I was safe. I knew I was going to get no hassle in that morning period until about 1 o'clock, and then I'd probably need to get home. And I came across a match that was taking place, and it still sticks and resonates with me to this day. Looking out and seeing 11 Black football players on a pitch, dressed in, all I could remember was gold and black kit, like the old school West Bromwich Albion kit. I thought, I can't believe this. I literally can't believe this. How is it possible? How are these 11 black footballers playing here? And the sense of pride, the sense of identity for me as an Asian, that gave me still sticks with me to this day. And just talking about it now, I'm getting goosebumps. And I looked around, I thought, you know what now? I literally don't care who turns up now. What are they going to say to me? What can they say to me? I've got these guys playing in front of me, a coach on the sidelines who's, you know, I've never heard anyone so loud. And this would be my the thing that I would do every weekend: come to the park and watch these guys play. Now, the team in question were and still are legends within the county of Bedfordshire, and have, I would say, been one of the major influences now when I go to football and I'm involved in football. I've been coaching for over 20 years at Luton Sporting Club, and we have a very diverse team. And one of the reasons for that is because of what these guys did for us. They paved the way. They gave us the opportunity. They gave us the courage, and that's all I can say. And me personally, gave us the courage to get out. Gave me the courage to go out there, play Sunday League football, and also get involved in football. And this is my really long-winded segue onto the first presenter this evening. A legend in his own lifetime, Mr. Noel Lewis, who's been a big part of Bedfordshire County Football Association and was instrumental in guiding me when I first came into the county and setting up the IAG. You know, Noel's always been there for me to lean on and to give me some directions and be a critical friend. And, you know, once he kind of stops talking about 2 hours later from when he starts. And I'm saying that because he's only got a limited amount of time and he's a great person to listen to. So without further ado, and thank you for listening to my kind of experience, my positive experience. And, you know, I wish you all the well for everybody who's taking place on the call today. So over to you, Noel.
Thank you, Bobby. Welcome, everybody. It's difficult to know where to start. If Amrit said, let's talk about your life in football. In regards to what this month is about, there's just too much to cover. So I just really want to have a quick bridge of, I came from St Vincent in 1965, went to Dally Road Junior School, and it was cold because I came about September, and it was unfriendly. And I had a real difficult time for 2 years at that school, Dally Road. I went to Beach Hill, and there's few more black guys there because they came from Maidenall, from Denby, and so it was okay. He was among kindred people. But even from that point in time, I just knew that some people would be so inhospitable. You'd walk down the street and you get a dad with a child of the age of about 5 or 6, and they look you in the face and just call you something black. For no reason at all. You couldn't do anything. As a result of that, I actually went through a really difficult period where you couldn't strike children, you couldn't even talk to them. But the parents or the people who were my size, I went through a couple of years where I was really, really prickly, and I hit so many people. It's amazing I never end up in a police cell because I was an angry young man for about 5 years. And during that time, I discovered football, and that was my release. First club I was with the Luton Boys Club, an outstanding team on the 16, won a lot of trophies. Then after that, Ebony came into my life, and it's just because some of the guys who was with the Ebony, who started as West Indian Wanderers, they decided to form the team, try and enter the league. They knew I played for a fairly decent side, and they got me involved. And it wasn't going to go across the team I was playing for because it was a Sunday morning. We all got really excited about that. Applied to join the league. Well, we joined the FA first, the FA, no problem. Got registered. Applied to join the league. Got turned down. Why was that? Well, you called yourself Ebony. Ebony means black. There'll be a problem. And we tried 2 leagues. and none of them would have us. So we then deferred to the Sunday League, the South Bed Sunday, and we were forever grateful because that's where we started, and we had good success, and we went through, and you know, Ebony played for, I think, for about 15, 20 years, then they folded, then they came back, and then folded again, and they came back, because it's very difficult to keep something going if life changes. Because when I started, Ebony was like a home for you to focus and be with your friends. You look across the changing room, and all you could see, with no disrespect to anybody else, was black faces. People who spoke like you, talked like you, had your same sort of thought. You made a joke, they knew where it was coming from. And it's a difficult thing when you actually move from a mixed changing room to a black changing room. Whether you're racist or not racist, whether you've got a chip on your shoulder or not, everyone knows the difference about being in your people. It's like being in your home. And so Ebony was my savior, because I see from within there different diverse people, different views. But you know, Ebony was my home for a long time. I enjoyed football, enjoyed the involvement, and very soon after joining Ebony, I got involved in the administration. And I think I became in administration from 18. I'm now 64. I don't mind telling anybody that. And there's not been a year has gone through where I've not been involved in football in some capacity. Either as a manager, a player, a coach, a trainer, a chairman. I've done it all. I've done it all. If I could replicate myself 20 times, I could run a football team with no one else, because I know every single nook and cranny about it. So I've spent time, and it's because I enjoy it. It's a great, great family. I would regard family of football as exactly that. We're a family. It's a family in football, and I've met so many great people. Even the people probably listening to this broadcast now, who I'd never have met otherwise. They've all enriched my life, and I hope that I've given them as well something. But it's just, football is a great conduit for meeting people, for being able to have discussions. But you still have to be able to strong and confident in yourself, because there's an awful lot of hurdles that you go through. I'll just move on to, as I got into adulthood and played at different levels. I was fortunate enough to play to South Midlands level. There was an incident in a game, and it really did shock me, because I'd taken my referee's exam about 2 or 3 years earlier, so I knew what could and couldn't be said. South Midlands football, I clashed with a player, I jumped, we collided, I mistimed my tackle, my jump in the air, and I clashed with him. And I knew the guy from before, played him against him previously. And as we landed on the ground, the words that come out of his mouth was, "You dirty black," so it was out of his mouth. He had my fist in his face. That was it. I didn't care what happened. The game was irrelevant. The referee walks over, slowly pondering what he's going to do. And I just advised him, if you're going to send me off, not a problem, but that player must come with me. If you send me off and don't send him off, then this game won't finish. I don't care where it goes. You heard what he said. You were not more than 10 yards away. And the referee, don't know his name, not even interested, bottled it. He didn't send me off, but he didn't want to send the guy off, so he cautioned both of us. And that's the sort of stuff on the Sundays that Ebony was dealing with. Referees would hear people call us this sort of names, do nothing about it. Our lads probably did what I did, smacked a few, get sent off. We go to the Bedfordshire FA to appeal. And the long and short of it, they'll say, right. And they have this terminology, and I know it's very popular, it's still being used nowadays, sticks and stones. And I'm telling you, it's rubbish, because words cut into you so deeply. You'd rather someone punch you in the face than tell you, make a statement to you about something that really hurt. Why would the best footballer in the world, in front of millions of people, headbutt somebody in the final of the World Cup? Zidane. Words. Wasn't a kick, wasn't a punch. Words. So coming back to my situation, referees would use that terminology, and you go to the Bedfordshire FA to appeal, and ultimately they'll say, yes, there may have been words said, but you did strike the person, you did kick him, you did do that. And my lads got done every single time. After a period of time of being involved with, on this side of the table, I decided, well, I'd like to get involved with the Bedfordshire FA, and I'd like to be in discipline. Not because I could change the outcome, but it was you sit on a table and you've got you and two, let's use just black and white for the purpose of this conversation. And you've got two white guys there. You're not going to change their mind because they are them and they're not necessarily unfair. But if they can get an insight into where the person's coming from, and in the explanation of summing up, and this is what I do when I chair any meeting. I ask the person if they've got everything off their chest, everything that they could possibly, think that they could bring to this, why they should not be found guilty or whatever the case might be. And I just felt that by being in that group of three, at least they had some sort of an idea where the person was coming from. And when they delivered a verdict, people walked out thinking, yeah, I've had a fair shake. I didn't get away with it, but they understood why I did it. And that's a lot better way to then go back and, reintroduce yourself back into the game. I've been involved for an awful long time. Earlier this year, I had a real surprise. Luton were celebrating Windrush Day and the flag raising. And I got an invitation to go and be one of the speakers before they raised the flag above the town hall. And I was really shocked because I've now been involved with Ebony for a long time and have been a black representative of football in the community. But for me, it's not even like that. It's just enjoyment and meeting people and doing something that I love tremendously. But when I reflected, I stood there and I mentioned, I did a little speech and I went through the bits and pieces. And when I actually explained, by explaining what I've done, it dawned on me that I am a Windrush generation offspring. And what we did, the Ebony, at the time, gave so much people hope. And like Bobby's referred to see 11 black guys playing a game of football, when at that time, you'd get one in a team and one over here. And that helped us to get the players together in the end, at the start, because players were good enough to get into teams, but they didn't get in. So it was easy to say, well, we've got a team, let's go. And we were the first black team in Bedfordshire. There's another team over in Bedford called Bedford West Indian, but they had Asian players and things. But we had all black players, all Caribbean based or people from Caribbean descent. And it's something I feel very proud of. I don't wear it as a badge. I just know I do it and I enjoy it. But I haven't got much longer, I suppose. But I know one thing that disappoints me, though, is that I've given a lot to football and it's given me a lot. A lot of people who are listening here, they've shared their life with me, their time with me. My disappointment is that there are not many other black people doing the job that I do. And they disappoint me because they then complain that nothing's going to change. Well, it's not going to change if you just look at it and think, well, someone will change it. You've got to come in, see what's going on, give it a go. Look at Bobby's got involved. Butch, I think Butch is in on this. I knew Butch when he was an angry young man. I played Butch in my team, and I'm not saying I'm taking credit for where Butch has got to, but when he knew he could have a friend and help, and so people, your life can be changed. And I've met a lot of people, and I'm happy they've interacted with me. I can say one thing for sure. I don't think anybody who I've ever been involved with in the football, they will never walk past me in the street unless they've got amnesia without at least acknowledging who I am. Maybe because I was kind to them, maybe because I was too loud, maybe because I was whatever it might have been. But I'd like to think it was because the time they spent with me was informative, was interesting. We had something in common, which is football. And anything else, it's really just what you build and what you start with. So I could go on, but I don't really want to because I can go all over the place with this. But if anyone asks me any questions, then I'm willing to answer stuff. But just to sum up, I'm currently on the county FA. I've been involved on the county for 22 years. I've been a council member. I referee. I've been a referee since 1992. I register every year. And I'm also on the referees committee. I'm also on the referees association. So my people think that I don't have a life, but I do. I've got 4 kids. So I've found some time other than football, and they're great. I've got a massive family. I'm one of 9 children. So, A lot of people see me walking and coming and going by myself, but I'm part of something a lot bigger. And with that sort of support behind you, then you know if you fall, someone will catch you because you offer the same thing to them. And that's how I view the family of football. Now, specific to do with the Black History Month, I think we do it every. The one reservation I have with this is that we do it every October, and it falls in with the national thing. But I think Bobby made the comment, or someone made the comment. It should be every day. It should be every week. It should be every year. It shouldn't be specific, because people can easily pay attention for 30 days and then get back to their way of being outside of that. It should be. We should do a little project once a month. I'm sure there'll be people. It doesn't have to be the same project, but it's something different to bring awareness. We're all faced with this Black Lives Matter thing going on, and that's a debate we really can't get into, because you have to go inside the skin of the person making the statement to understand. You have to understand there's many people who've actually walked in that person's shadow, walked in their footsteps, and they know where they're coming from. But you can't really discuss that with someone who's never ever tried to understand the problems that society can create. I say enjoy the involvement. I'll continue to be involved as long as I'm fit and healthy and mentally capable. And thank you for inviting me to speak on this. And hopefully I've covered lots of areas, maybe some more I should have covered and could have covered, but like Bobby said, you don't have enough time. So thanks very much for listening to me. Thank you very much. Pass it on.
No, wow. That's such an inspirational opening. And, you know, I've just gone over trailblazers and pioneers of the professional game as players. But, you know, what you've done within county has been phenomenal. And, you know, for young people like myself and loads of others that come from BME community, to have a role model like you that have gone through real adversity to come out on the other side and making a real positive change, you know, really, really touches me. And I know it's touched a lot of people. Thanks, Noel. If you have a question for Noel, anyone in the audience or any of our presenters, please could you put it into the chat. We're going to move on now, and we're going to start with our panel. So to begin with, I'm very pleased to announce that we've got Mike. So Mike Nolan is a national men's deaf team manager, and he's also a member on the Bedfordshire FA Inclusion Advisory Group.
Hello, Emma. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, hear you loud and clear, Mike.
Yeah, lovely.
We've got Antonia. So Antonia is currently a player for Wootton Blue Cross FC, and like Mike, she is on the Bedfordshire IAG group. Antonia, you there?
Yep, I'm here. Hello.
Brilliant. We've also got Dahaj. So Dahaj is the chair of directors at Team Beds and Luton, someone that we're very, very proud to partner with to bring you this event. And he's also a UEFA B qualified coach.
How you doing? Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep. And last but not least, we've got Bobby, who's a non-executive director here at Bedfordshire FA, and he's also leading our IAG group as chairperson. So to start with, question to begin with for Noel. So Noel, you talked about holding a number of positions within football, and you talking about how you've come from being one of the first black teams to you know where we are now. So just how far have we moved as a county, Noel?
I think there's the perception that things have moved on because there's been a conscious mind to do so. And I'm going to sort of slightly disagree with that, and just simply say, because the reason why I say that is because I have got 4 children. And 2 of my children are mixed race. One of the things why things have moved on is that there is an awful lot more children from mixed parentage. And as a natural result of that, they have then befriended other people, and their influence, if their parents have had it at any time in their life, they've influenced them kids, and them kids have influenced these other kids. So there is more of an acceptance of people because they don't see the color, they see their friend. And I think if you watch the Black Lives Matter, you see white kids next to black kids, and he's not thinking like, I'm supporting him because he's black. He's my mate. Why are they saying he's different? So that's one of the things I say, that he has moved forward, but more and more people are realizing that, you know, it should be a level playing field. But I do know that I think half of it is just by accident, because there are a lot more mixed race children who've become parents themselves, and they then, as a result of that, by that situation, you know, you get more people who are understanding of the issues of other people. But yeah, it has moved a bit, because I think the key bit is, if you watch football teams, I remember looking at this the other day, just a game of football, it's a professional game. I'm thinking, like, literally one team would have 5, 6, 7 black players. There isn't a team with less than half a dozen black or non-European player in their team. So as a natural result of that, society has to embrace, because you can't all of a sudden be a teammate to somebody and then tomorrow, and then you call him something else the other day. So I think it has moved, it has improved, with a lot more tolerance. But I hate that word tolerance. But that's the word we have to look at. It should be acceptance. But tolerance is the key word, and there is a lot more of it. But there's a lot more people saying this, speaking with the same tongue. Hope I didn't take up too much time, but I just think that's one of the reasons why it's changed. But there has been a mindset of people in the powers to try to get change and to get more uniformity. But they've been helped by, you know, the situation with birth of children from different races coming together and then creating children their own selves. So that's my response to that, hopefully.
Definitely, and I think you made a really good point around the word tolerance. You know, how that word is used as you're told to tolerate something. And I know I'm just going to come to Mike in a minute, but I know Mike has another point on this. Mike, I know we had a conversation regarding this the other day around the word tolerance. Could you just expand on that for us?
Well, yeah, I mean, tolerance, you can tolerate something which you'd rather it's not there, wouldn't you? You know, inclusion is the thing, really. And the idea of inclusion isn't just, you know, putting a sign up outside saying everybody welcome, or thinking that you're inclusive because you don't exclude anyone. You've got to actually go out and understand people, why they're coming and why they're not coming, so that when they walk through the door or through the gate, they feel included. And tolerance is a word that I think we should move on from, as Nolan is saying, because I don't think we should be thinking about tolerating people. We should be including them, embracing them.
Definitely. And just staying with you, Mike. So I know previously that you've done some work as a FA coach mentor. So looking at it from an FA coach mentor perspective, just how important is it that we learn and take time to understand other people?
Well, first of all, thanks for being part of this conversation, allowing me to be part of this with such a group of people. It's a real privilege. Your question is a really good one, and it's one, thankfully, that is becoming more self-evident, and the answer to it is more self-evident and more accepted, and that is that the more we learn about people, the better we are at that, the better we can shape our support for them around their lived experience and their journey. And the added benefit to that is not just that we can support that individual, but we have better tools for supporting people who are like them, and also people who are not like them. It just makes us better as coaches or developers or whatever it is in terms of support. I think it's vital. And Black History Month, really, the basis of it, learning about people, about their stories and success, and as Noel said earlier, that's something that should be the fabric of our football conversation all year round. But until we get to that stage, we need to put a spotlight on things. We need to shine on different aspects of the game and the people who've gone before us or the people who are involved now. And if I could just take a minute just to shine a spotlight on the para side of it just for a second.
Absolutely.
There's 27 teams at St. George's Park. 6 of them are para football teams. So they're teams for people with a disability. And among those, we've got black players like Asnath Lasala, we've got Daniel Hogan, Alistair Patrick Heselton, Martin Sinclair, players who, some of them are in the Football Hall of Fame. And I don't think that this is celebrated enough. I don't think that we hear these stories enough. Some of them are part of an FA role model programme where they will come, and if there's coaches here or people here who would like to engage with that, they would come and speak to your meeting or your club about their story. And like the football legends, all through the ages, I remember, Chris Hughton, Paul McGrath, Viv Anderson, John Barnes, people like that. The legend bit is because of the sporting lens, but the important bit, the legacy, is when you learn about them as people, the struggles they had, the challenges they had because of colour, religion, gender, sexuality, disability, or a combination of those things, because it's often a combination as well. That's how they left a legacy for people who are the same as them, but people who are like them, and also people who are not like them. And I think that the more we go on and learn about people and learn about ourselves as well, the more we can realise that it's within our gift to build on that legacy and add a little bit ourselves for people who are like us and people who are not like us. And as guardians of the game, or stakeholders, whatever you want to call us, I think it's important now to realise it's not just within our power, it's something we have an absolute responsibility to do. And that's not just as stakeholders, that's as people.
Absolutely. And you just used a really key phrase there, just not stakeholders, that these are people. So again, wise words. So I'm just going to come to Antonia. So Antonia, as we previously mentioned, you're currently a footballer with Wootton Blue Cross, and aside from a BAME community background, we see a massive issue of a drop off of players coming through once they hit around their teenage years. So a bit as a black individual, Antonia, what would you say was the biggest inspiration for you to continue playing and go into the senior game?
I think definitely friendships was a key thing. Like, I've moved all the way to Australia, and the core reason to why I started playing football was for friendship groups, just to get involved with people that are like-minded. But like what Noel said before, with his children being mixed race, I feel like I've had a bit of an upper hand. It's slightly different as a black individual. They see me slightly different. So I feel like that's really helped me, unless I blocked some of the barriers for me. So just opened up the gates for me, just because I don't think people see me necessarily as black. And another thing, just my dad, he's always been passionate about supporting me as his daughter. He's always on the sideline. When I was younger, I played for a team called Cranfield Colts, and that's a predominantly white area. And unfortunately, our coach couldn't take us on anymore. So my dad had the confidence to step up and take it on and be our coach in that league. And you can tell for definite, some of the people would come up to him and say, oh, they're really, really nice to you just because they're scared of you. And he'll look back at them and say, well, why would they be scared of me? And obviously, it's just his mannerisms, the way that he's in a black culture, to be so enthusiastic, shouting on the sideline, so passionate. You'll know if you've met my dad, because he's the guy that's loud and on the sideline. That's just how he is. And I think him showing that confidence gave me a lot of confidence, definitely. He'll dance on the sideline, he'll scream, he'll shout, he'll drop to his knees, if a goal doesn't go in. And that just has made me think, do you know what, I just need to be involved in it for myself as well. Just be confident in who I am and push through. But yeah, friendships has kept me in everything. I wouldn't have started football if I didn't have the friends that I did. The reason why I joined was because they made me aware of it. My dad was clueless. He didn't know anything about female football. I'd be out in the garden with my brother playing football all the time, but he never thought once to get me into a team. So I started there at Cranfield, and then I moved to Bedford, and that's where I met a lady called Lou, and she got me into coaching. She said, oh, my daughter used to be quite shy and introvert. I think you should really go for it. So it's the people around me, having the football as a family. Like Sarah DaCosta got me into IAG and things like that. I think it's people making you aware of the opportunities that are around you. They are there for sure. I've had a very positive experience with football. I think it led me into my career as a PE teacher, and without football, I don't think I would have got the confidence to get that high. And now I'm at a platform being a teacher where I can encourage other female girls to get into it. But I know as a coach, it's been really difficult for some children to stick to it because of their family, because of their parents. They weren't as encouraging as my dad was, and has kept me in the game.
Brilliant. So just having positive experience and having that network and Noel mentioned that earlier as well, which is it seems to be a really positive and thing that we can build on. So just linking on with positive experiences, Dahaj, a question I've got for you is, what experiences have helped shape you into the coach that you currently are, going from starting your coaching journey to being a B license coach now with experience at an academy level? What kind of experience really shaped you?
First of all, thank you for the invite, Amit. And it's great to be amongst peers, colleagues, and friends. I think the difficulty, you can't really pinpoint one experience to say, what is that one experience or these experiences. What I like to do, just kind of like categorize these experiences. I think first of all, one of the things that's been really common listening to the others, Nolan, Mike, and Antonia, is that we need role models, and that's about aspirational role models, people that have gone before us, and knowing what they've done, how they've gone about, becoming coaches, and heading towards in that direction, and seeing people ahead of us. The other thing I think we would say is challenge. My experience is, I've put myself in positions where I've had to challenge myself, really be uncomfortable, ask really difficult questions, and not be afraid to put myself there. You would go to some of these coaching qualifications and you feel like you're not worthy, but you put yourself in that position, and you really test yourself. And finally, as Antonia said, is the support. That's whether it's from friends, family, or other coaches. You're asking them the questions, and they're supporting. And I was fortunate that one of the the bursary program was there to support me through the UEFA program. I had Lee and Butch, at Sandbites to kind of show those experiences. So I guess those are kind of like the three areas of my experience as a coach. Aspiration, challenge, and support that really kind of molded me as the coach I am today.
Brilliant. So lovely to hear your experiences with individuals in here that have helped you along the way, which is brilliant to hear. So just moving on to Bobby. So Bobby, you are the first director of football here at Bedfordshire FA from a BAB community. Bobby, how important is it that not only that we have a trailblazer, but how do we follow that up from having the first person into the boardroom? How do we follow that up and increase the diversity?
I think the key thing is really embrace what it means to have and practice positive action. There's been a lot of talk around positive action, and 7 years ago now, a few years ago now, since when I was given the opportunity, it took the then CEO, Keith Stroud, who's some of you may know is a professional referee, who was CEO here at Bedfordshire FA. I'd been in contact with the county FA as a result of a football tournament that I run every year, and other bits and pieces through coaching and being part of a club, and I've always expressed an interest to get involved in the county. Keith saw this, we had a conversation, and he was instrumental in co-opting me onto the board of directors at the time. And I could say, that is positive action. Whilst I had some interaction with the county, it takes somebody to do that, to make that decision, to make that leap, take that leap of faith, because there wasn't anybody on the board, and still isn't, who looks like me, from my background. And now, our board at County FA is moving towards, the kind of the positive way, which is representative of the communities that we serve. So that for me was probably the answer to your question, really, Amrit, is the positive action piece, and how to involve people and go out and get people that will enhance, let's say, the County FA or the organisations that you represent, but also that will kind of mirror almost who lives in the area, who plays football in the area, who is that is part of the demographic. So I think it's very important to go out. There's been in the past, there's been, if you're looking for someone to, recruit somebody, you put it on certain social media platforms now, and you put it in certain places, but not everybody sees it. It's I think now those days are gone where you think, just because you put something out there, people are going to see it. You have to actively go out and actively make that decision, because that in itself is a cultural shift where you're actually doing something about being more inclusive, for example. So for me, I've benefited from that positive action, and as a result, for getting involved in the county, very much like Noel, it gave me the inner workings of the other side. It's people are quick to make a comment, a negative comment about something, but more often than not, that comes from a place of actually not knowing the inner workings. In Noel's case, it'd be something like a discipline decision. But unless you find out what goes into the whole mechanics of making that decision, then where kind of how that decision comes about, and then it's up to you to kind of, I guess, present your argument in a way that you could better take more account, so the panel can take more account of kind of what you're saying. And for me, I learned a lot about the inner workings of the board. It's been challenging for me because, it's been a learning curve. I'd like to think I've enhanced the board, not only the diversity aspect of it, but kind of what I bring to the table in terms of my knowledge, not just in football, or not just being, a Sikh, but also, my experiences from the world of work in recruitment, HR, customer service. So, and all those things, it's just a different perspective on things. So, I guess, positive action is a way of moving forward, definitely. And the more, let's say, county FA boards and the national FA boards, they're much better and stronger and more aware of the pulse of what's going on in football and in society, if they're including people, if they're going out and actively, looking for people in those communities that can offer that the knowledge that's lacking. Because everybody represents a different part of the community, and it's good to bring that all together. So from my point of view, that's how my positive experience from the county. And it's tough. I do get criticism. I get criticism from actually, you're the only one on the board. What have you done? What have you given back? But the thing is, unless you're in there, and it's not that easy to turn things around that quickly. But what it is easy is to have those conversations, to lay the foundations. So whenever I do, or decide to move on, or go elsewhere, whatever, and the board and the county they develop, there'll be a legacy there where somebody else, a person of color, a person from a minority group, I'm hoping that they can see, actually Bobby was in there for a certain period of time. We can do that as well, and we're seeing in our county especially, there's more interest in people from the BAME community getting involved in the council. I mean, what I did as part of when I was as part of the chair of the IAG, there is the chair of the IAG also has a place on the county council. I did not want that for myself, and I offered that opportunity to the vice chair at the time, and she was able to take that opportunity. So it's all about, once you get in a position, then you can kind of support others and not be the only person that everybody knows. It's like bringing somebody together with you, and I think that's maybe something that has been argued that as communities, that the BAME community don't do enough of. But then you have to have the opportunities, and there has to be somebody brave enough to go out and really make that change. And for me, in getting involved in the county, it was definitely the CEO at that time, Keith Stroud, that said, and luckily for me, I also had the likes of Butch, the likes of Noel, more so in that situation, to sound off on, because he'd been in and around the county, and he'd had those conversations, he'd been in those boardrooms. So that for me was very influential, not only in my decision to come into the county, but also to understand the mechanics, because you need that, and you need those allies, not only from, our own community, but outside of the community as well.
Brilliant message, Bob. You really hit home when you talked about going into the unknown. And you and various other people that are on this, and even the ones that aren't on this have broken that unknown, and you've created a pathway as a trailblazer. But a huge thank you to everyone on panel number one. Your insights and ideas have been phenomenal, and it's something going forward that we'll keep in our heads. If anyone does have a question for anyone on panel number one, could you put it in the chat? I know some of you have. What we'll do is we will come back to, we will revisit them. We're just going to continue with the next part of our event, which brings me on to Lee Brown, who's going to talk about the impact of his coaches as a young player. So just to give you a little bit of background, Lee Brown was our county coach developer for the past 2 seasons. He's done some fantastic work with a number of us in the call and within the grassroots community. And he's just going to wow us with his story about him as a young player. Over to you, Lee.
I'll try and wow you with a story, because I don't think the photo will do that. So I'll do my best. Thank you, Amrit, and thank you for inviting me to speak first and foremost. Listening to the people that have spoken already, it's really upsetting, and it's also inspirational. And I say that because I've heard Bobby say that he couldn't watch a match because of racism. I've heard Duhar say that he's not worthy on a course, or he felt he wasn't worthy on a course. And these things are just not acceptable. But then I heard Noel say about how football enriched his life, and Antonia speak about how her experiences in football led her to becoming a PE teacher. So there's the sadness that these things have happened, which are totally unacceptable. But at the same time, there's some really positive stories. And Bobby at the end was talking about positive action. And I know later on Butch and Darren and Steve are going to talk about some of the work that we are doing within the Football Association to address some of these stubborn inequalities that you have so articulately explained. So thank you for being such passionate, articulate and insightful individuals from my perspective. So Amrit has asked me to say a few words about the impact of my coach, and I'm just going to put a twist on that, and I'm going to call it more than a coach. And the reason I'm doing that, you'll find out towards the end of what I'm about to say. Some of you may have seen a film called More Than a Coach. If you have, it will resonate with you. If you haven't, you might want to watch it. There's a gentleman named Drew Joyce II, and he coached a group of 5 young children who turned into young men, and they played basketball in a place called Akron, Ohio. Now, Drew Joyce, his son, played in that team, and there was a gentleman named LeBron James who also played in that team. And they got to a national final, and they were expected to win, and they came off the court and they'd lost their first ever national final as teenagers, so 15, 16-year-olds. And Drew Joyce was interviewed, and his words at the end of that were that I forgot who I was. I wasn't there to be a basketball coach. I was there to support them become young men. And for me, that resonates hugely with 2 black coaches that I had growing up as a child. And I just want to talk a little bit about those individuals. The first one was a gentleman named Matt Lewis. I don't know these people. I don't know them. I haven't seen them for a long, long time, and I'm hoping to reconnect with them at some point. But Matt was my coach when I first started playing. I had more clubs than Tiger Woods, but eventually I ended up and Matt coached me again. And Matt taught me and the other boys a massive life skill. I'm hoping there's no police officers on the call, but just bear with me. We played a game away, and we had a bus to the game, and we had to walk through the opposition's clubhouse to get into the changing rooms. Now, on the way back, it wasn't me, I'm really pleased to say, but some of the players decided that they were going to steal some Alco Pops. And of course, that got out, the other club found out, and we were in big trouble. but I remember Matt sitting us in the changing rooms and talking to us about why you shouldn't steal, and then the implications of people stealing, and then the people that did steal, they had to pay the money back and write letters to the club. So I look at more than a coach, and I look back at Matt, he was more than a coach. I then come on to a different coach, a gentleman named Lee Chambers. I think he was a goalkeeper, if memory serves me correctly, but I'm talking 25 years ago, something like that. But I always remember Lee because of his beaming smile as I got to train him, because of his laugh, and because of the support that he gave. I remember plenty of arms around the shoulder. Now, they were mainly because I missed lots of one-on-ones, but I knew he cared because of all these things. So when I look back now, I think these people have had a massive impact on me. I'd like to think I don't steal. In fact, I know I don't steal. But certainly from a behaviours perspective of Lee Chambers, I'd like to think that applies to my job as a tutor and as a mentor. And I try to show people that I do care. So he's had a huge impact on me. So it's just for me to say, Amrit, thank you for allowing me to share my feelings, one or two stories on this call. I'm really humbled by it. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Lee. What an amazing story, and you certainly did wow us with it. It's so nice to hear anecdotal stories like that, and people from first hand that have had a positive experience within the game, and these are lessons, and I've put it too modestly there in the impact, but he was more than a coach for the way he shaped you, and from that story about you talking about him telling you why it was wrong to steal, but that's something that still sticks with you today. And you never know if it was a different coach or a different person in that kind of a position, would that have been the same message that had been left? Who knows? I was lucky. Certainly were, and it's so nice to hear a story like that. Thank you so much, Lee.
Thank you, Aaron. I think we're passing on to Butch. Just a quick introduction. In fact, Amrit's done it there as FA coach inclusion manager. I mean, certainly Butch, I've known Butch for some time now, and I think he may well be putting his name forward for a future mayor of Luton. Is that right, Butch?
That is shocking, Lee Brown. I can't believe you stitched me up with that. So.
No, but certainly from somebody I've stepped into his shoes. I think they were more like canoes than shoes. But Butch, over to you.
Cheers, Lee. Amrit, where did you get that image from, please? Evening, everyone. I hope everyone's well. It's a pretty crazy time. I want to first of all start by saying a big thank you to Amrit for putting the whole thing together. I think we've talked a little bit about pioneers and trailblazers, but what we forget, okay, is the future as well. And the young chap that's sitting in front of me is just one of those. I'm immensely impressed by what you're doing, Amrit. Amrit's asked me to sort of like talk a little bit about where how it all started, the journey, and then where kind of like I've navigated myself to. And it's great to see so many familiar faces on the call as well. And I think that's really, really important that we do recognise those on the call. I mean, Nolan in particular is somebody that was one of my old managers, as he said, at Luton Boys Club. I can remember it. And Noel, I was a angry young man. I'm just an angry old man now. But we're still here. That's the most important thing. So born in Luton, brought up at a time a bit like Bobby and others have said, where right wing fascism it was rife. Couldn't go out between a certain time, 7 and 9 o'clock on certain days because they went out PAKI bashing. Brought up with a big brother who decided he'd go out and face them, but I was the kid brother and I was protected by him all the time. Those early memories shape you. They're always going to shape you. And like every young kid, my dream was to become a professional footballer. It dawned on me pretty quickly that that wasn't going to be the case because of one fact. I didn't have the ability. And if it was only that would be great. But I think as I look back at my career in football in particular, okay, I do give props to Noel Lewis because Noel took me on as an under-14 at Luton Boys Club. I remember it. And to have a black coach at that time was pretty inspirational, because if you can't see it, you can't be it. And I know you've heard it a few times, and you know, to this day, it's great. We've got a number of coaches now out there, but I think that we stand on the shoulders of giants like Noel. Football's in my blood. I played locally for nearly 20 years, and was a regular attendee of the disciplinary meetings at Bedfordshire FA, and it wasn't on the right side of the table, I can tell you as well. And I kind of look back at those times, and I used to, you know, walk away from outcomes of disciplinary meetings and go, you cannot be serious. You know, I remember a number of occasions when I was a coach and also as a player, you know, being run off pitches, and then when we decided to stand there and fight them, we'd still get banned. Either way, we just couldn't win. It was those times, but like I said, they shape you. Football for me always throws up a lot more questions than answers, especially when it comes to equality. And I think my lived experiences around sort of like the systemic and the systemic and institutionalized racism, not only within the game at the time, it shaped me. But what it also did to me was it gave me a determination. It gave me a determination to think about what a legacy looks like, what a footprint looks like in the game. And I wasn't going to give up, you know, regardless of not making it as a footballer. The next best thing, I suppose, was coaching. You know, I did my first badge in the old prelim in 1994 now, I remember. And in 96, I went on to get my UEFA B, and I started what we called the old full license in 1998 at Lilleshall. I also started, as the Haj, I'm sure, remembers, Luton United Football Club, which in 1999 wasn't called Luton United, it was called Luton Asians. And Noel, my brother, the stick that you got for being called Ebony was the same stick we got when I called it Luton Asians. But I was deliberately provocative at the time, because my question was, where are the Asians in football? I'd had 2 decades of trying to play the game. We weren't making any progress, and I realised that, you know, our youth at the time, especially at the turn of the century, were going in a different direction, and we needed something else besides just gangs and drugs in Luton. And when we started the club, and we called it Luton Asians, I could not believe the amount of kids that came out of the woodwork saying that we want to play. And it quickly grew. It grew to the point where, you know, in 2020, 21, and I look back at, you know, the numerous clubs that we've got now in Bedfordshire, and especially the Asian clubs. And I look at some of the coaches there, and they're either former players of Luton United or they have somehow been touched by that football club. And I think that tells us a lot about maybe the legacy that the whole group of volunteers that we were at Luton United, we left behind. And we did have a philosophy, and we had a way. It wasn't so much for me. Yeah, ultimately it was about I wanted to win. I wanted to be the best. I was competitive, but I also realised, okay, that we offered so much more than just football opportunities to the young people of Luton. And I think that when I decided, as a committee, we decided in 2003 to change the name to Luton United. It was for a reason, because we felt like we had united the community. And I think that was really important at a time when we still had a number of different issues. I think once during that time, in my coaching career in particular, I mentioned, you know, my full badge in '98. I didn't get the A license, so the old full badge, which is what we call the A license now. And I remember the, you know, the couple of times that I was assessed, and it was disappointing for a number of reasons, because I did feel that I was good enough, but maybe that was just my lens at the time. One thing I was sure of was that some of the experiences that I had in coach education at the time were pretty shocking. And, you know, from the point of sort of like being racially abused by other attendees on a course 20 years ago, as well as coach educators that dismissed you. And one thing that really stuck in my mind and resonated with me was that if I ever got the opportunity to become a coach educator, it'd be different. If if I fast forward those 20 years with Luton United to 2015, when I got the opportunity to become a county coach developer, and with the Chairman's Commission report in 2014 talking about how we're going to develop coaches in England. It was a great opportunity. There was a number of us right across the country, 42 I think in total, and I fortunately got my home county of Bedfordshire. It was actually an opportunity to become that coach educator that I always talked about, and I think that it was really important for me to ensure that I remember those experiences to make sure that when in particular attendees or participants or learners would come into my environment as a coach educator, that they would feel included, and every single one of them, hopefully, I hope, got a good experience. And if they, for any other reason, you know, if there was anything that they ever needed, I like to think that I was always on hand for them as well. I stayed in the role for 3 years, and then I got the opportunity to get what the Football Association might call a promotion as the coach inclusion and diversity manager, and it's really given me an opportunity to actually leave that footprint around what real change looks like. And I've been fortunate enough to be in a position where I can influence FA education and you know, up to senior managers, including, you know, the CEOs within the organisation. And I think the most important thing that's come out of that is that, number one, the organisation is now prepared to listen, and number two, they absolutely recognise that in the past they might not have got it right. And so within my role now, I work with a number of aspirational and intentional coaches, not only from grassroots, but also with players who are transitioning out of the game into coaching as well. And you know, our aim at the FA is to provide world-class coach development. And I hope that, you know, especially with the work that my brother Steve Smithies, who's going to be on the call in a minute, Lee Brown and Darren Moss, who are on the call at the moment, we'll talk a little bit about some of the work that we're doing from a grassroots perspective. My remit is the professional game, and one of the key programs that I'm currently running is the club placement program, as well as the bursary programs that we've run in the past. And what we found was that we have a number of Black and Asian minority ethnic coaches that actually have now qualified up to UEFA B. And one thing that the research was telling us was that where do they go from there? Because yeah, it's great having the qualification, but if you don't have the networking, you don't get in the clubs. So you know, we have now delivered a program called the Club Placement Program. This year, 13 clubs are on board, of which 7 are Premier League clubs. And for the first time, you know, and Dahaja's been one of the recipients last year in the inaugural year for the Club Placement Program. You know, with seven Premier League clubs on board this year, it's a fantastic opportunity for Black and Asian coaches to actually get the experience and exposure within the game. And I think it's crucial, because if we're going to move the dial, we're going to move the dial together. And also, we talk a lot about numbers. We talk about measurements and analytics, but actually, you know, that piece around diversity and mandating diversity is fine. For me, it's a much bigger piece now. It's about transformational change. I'm talking about people like you, Amrit, who can come in as a young person, but actually transform the thinking of other people within organisations to get them to start thinking about what their behaviours look like. What does cultural and behavioural change look like in the industry of football? And it's and my last piece really would be around the Football Leadership Diversity Code that we've just introduced to which 41 professional football clubs have now signed up to, around real figures on trying to increase diversity, but actually the clubs themselves signing up to this, you know, making a real true commitment to inclusion and diversity. And I suppose I've come full circle, and I hope that, you know, when I look back at my you know, my career, it was never ever going to be about me. It was always going to be about the cause. It was always going to be about the people that we've, you know, that have come along within it. But also, I will always remember those who have also supported me, and a number of people are on the line. So, Amrit, or Mark, as you like to be called on this team's call, that's me, my brother.
Outstanding, Butch, outstanding. And, you know, I'm not going to apologise for that photo on one basis, is that, you know, you just talked about your career and having an impact. But, you know, the first thing that if I showed, you know, 90% of coaches around Bedfordshire and I showed that photo of you, you know, the impact that you've had on coaches has been phenomenal, you know, and being an Asian, you know, see, for me, you know, coming onto courses and, you know, Dahaj talks about, you know, where he's not being filled that he's made worthy. You know, when I was coming onto a course and no experience, nothing, you know, I felt like I should be there. And that only felt like I should be there was because of people like you, Butch, just making a real positive impact on the game. And, you know, I don't think that you'll understand how much of an impact you'll have until you fully look back. But Butch, unbelievable. So I'm just going to go from Butch just to continue our momentum. So we're going to go and introduce panel number 2, which is we're all going to look at moving forward together. So starting us off, we've got Steve Smithies, who's the FA Regional Coach Manager. Steve, are you with us?
Good evening. Yes, good evening, everyone. Thanks, Amrit.
We've also got Sarah DeCosta, a colleague of mine, joining us from Bedfordshire FA as Designated Safeguarding and Inclusion Officer.
Hello. Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Sarah. We've got Vivian, who's a non-executive director of football at London FA, and she's also the chairperson at the FA of the Anti-Discrimination Disciplinary Football Hearing.
Sorry, mute. I was on mute. I'm here.
That's okay. Good to hear you, Vivian. And that makes up panel number 2. So I'm going to kick things off. So Steve, I'm going to come to you first. Similar to Mike, you've done a lot of work around mentoring. So a question I have to you: mentoring is all about engaging people. So how do we engage positively with a community to educate them on becoming a more inclusive environment for the next generation and the current generation?
No, thanks, Amrit. A great question. I think one of the first rules of inclusion and one of the first rules of mentoring, and I think one of our first rules of society should be the first thing is to do no harm. The first thing is not to take a relationship or a situation backwards. That's really important. In terms of relational coaching in football, it's really important that we do no harm. I think it's really important in a mentor-mentee relationship, and I think it's really important in any relationship that we must avoid stereotyping at all times. We must really avoid making assumptions. And how I like to remind myself and remind others that inclusion starts with I. So the I is me. What's my responsibility? What's my role to play in this relationship? What's my role to play in the environment to make it more inclusive? When the I is spoken by you or anybody else on that call, again, that's about you. The I will be about you. But what I can control is how I listen, how I understand, and I listen to understand, not listen to reply. And I try to understand the context of the person or the people we're in, and I try to explain what I do know, and I also need to explain what I don't know. Making and creating inclusive environments, particularly in football, is really about understanding the individual, understanding the group, understanding the culture, listening to recognise intersectionality, listening to Butch and Bobby, and listen to yourself, listen to people from Luton Speak is actually really inspiring, because it's clear that people on this call belong to a community, and it's the community of football that exists within the community of Luton, and then we can break off and talk about the female football community, we can talk about the Asian football community, the Afro-Caribbean community, and it's just really important that we listen and we understand, and we try to just try to contextualize how people are, and then offer support. It sounds really simple, and I think it is. If you just listen rather than make assumptions and avoid stereotyping, I think, and really focus on not taking anything backwards, not doing any harm, I think you'll be fine. And it's just really, really important to listen and to offer support at the right time.
Absolutely, and you know, us involved in football are probably more guilty of it than anyone else is, that we try to overcomplicate things. And you know, just going on what you said there about this community, you know, because we all are part of this community. So it's just about how we coming together. So it links me quite nicely into my next question. So I'm going to come to you, Sarah. So my next question is, for a community at grassroots. So, for example, you know, we've had two examples of Ebony and Luton United, who were set up to be the first within the community at what they do. Now we look at Bedfordshire, and the diversity has grown brilliantly, and it's something that we're so pleased to see now. So how do we continue building on that, and how can communities and you know, teams be proactive in pushing an inclusive agenda?
So, I mean, I think that I know you said you don't like the word tolerant, but I think it's really important that everybody realises that we're there to play football, that these are children, these are adults, and they're all there for the same reason, to enjoy themselves and play football, and anything else needs to be secondary. The amount of discipline and reports that we get regarding racism, they did rise for a while. I don't think they're continually rising. I think we're still getting those kind of reports. And the only way we're going to deal with that is if people report it. We have to have a zero tolerance policy for anything that is unacceptable. You know, some of the language that's reported to us, people say, well, it's not really racist. We had one recently when they said, oh, you should be playing cricket. Well, that's not really racist, because, you know, we didn't mention their race, but it's the implied racism. And I think we need to make sure that all of our clubs, all of our members, and indeed the spectators, realise that we do have a zero tolerance policy. It's not acceptable, but they must report it. And I think we as the County FA need to be a bit more proactive in that. It's something I've been discussing actually this week with Alan, the CEO, about, you know, on our website, it's very difficult to find the page regarding what to do if you've been racially abused, or you feel there's any kind of discrimination happened. Where do I go? Who do I speak to? I mean, of course, you know, they can go straight to kick it out, but we want to deal with it internally. We want to be able to deal with it and educate the clubs ourselves. So we need to really raise the profile of what to do if you've got a problem. But also, I think we need to raise the profile of what to do to celebrate diversity in football within our community. You know, we don't have a website that says, look at this wonderful work we're doing. We have a website to say, if you've got a problem, come here. So I'd really think, I mean, it's something I think perhaps you and I could work on, Amrit, and with the IA group, having a really positive message that we are an inclusive organisation, that everybody is welcome, and look at I mean, I think everybody should listen to this recording and listen to some of the stories that have been told and the positive messages that are coming through. You know, within the football community in Bedfordshire, people just get on and they play football, and they don't think about the wider aspect of it all and the diversity within the game. We have a huge range of people. We have lots of really positive work going on. We need to be celebrating the positive stuff, not just looking at the negative stuff.
Absolutely, and something that's just stood out for me there, Sarah, is that, you know, everyone that's spoken previously has spoken about, you know, being brave and being the first to do so and have courage. And what you've just shown there is the courage to admit that, you know, we haven't always got it right, and we won't always get it right. But what's important is that we understand that we haven't got it right. But it's not about that. It's what we're going to do to change this now. Thanks, Sarah. That's a brilliant answer. Vivian, I'm just going to come to you for our next question.
Hi.
Hi, Vivian. So, Vivian, similar to Bobby in a role that you hold as a non-executive director at London FA, I'm just really intrigued to know, as if you're coming into an area that is a white dominant area, how could you help produce the next line of BAME leaders that come into areas such as this?
I think it's really on the individual, because there are very limited resources internal. So it's really on the limited individual. So it's really on the individual to get some coaching themselves, but to understand what football is about. I joined London FA, and I was the first black woman in 138 plus years on the board. It's been interesting, but for me, it's the support I have outside. It's the support system, and I've worked with the Metropolitan Police, so I'm used to sort of those type of environments. But the key thing is, what will change is leaders have to get uncomfortable to be comfortable, and the only way is get uncomfortable, acknowledging there is a problem, and also rewarding and talking about what you've achieved and what you are doing, and that's what a lot of people don't talk about. London FA have done some great stuff, like Bobby we talked about earlier, positive action. We've recruited more women on our council than we've ever had before. I lead the Inclusion Advisory Group. That's groundbreaking. Also, I lead Women and Girls Advisory Group. So we've done some groundbreaking work, but there's still a long way to go. We can't get complacent. Like Sarah was saying about disciplinaries, there are still people who don't complain. And I have to ask myself, why don't people complain? Why do they suffer in silence? Is it because they don't feel confident enough to complain, or they don't feel confident enough that their complaint will be heard? But on top of that, really back to what I was saying earlier, it's about, as an individual yourself, you have to be able to know your worth, know where you stand, and get some help if you need the extra bit of support, because it can be quite daunting. You're going into an area where you've never been before, especially if you're an ethnic minority person, and then nobody else looks like you. So that's why it's important to have a more of a diverse workforce, a more of a diverse senior management team.
Absolutely. Thanks, Vivian. Really, really insightful coming from a director, and your views on things, and how we influenced these decision makers. Butch, I'm going to come back to you for the next question. Butch, we talked about improving the quality of education for coach education, sorry, and this is all in the hope that we produce the next line of elite managers. I know you've alluded to it with some of your previous work, but just what experiences do young coaches and coaches in general from BAME communities, what experiences do they gain to help them within that journey to the elite level?
So we all know that the amount of calls that I take from people who want to be the next Pep Guardiola, and okay, fine. So, where's your plan? What does that look like? And within that journey, we know that it's not linear. There's no way that there's an easy path to success. I think it was Darren Moore recently said that success is a moving target. I think he's absolutely right. It's going to keep moving. So, if you've got a plan and you set yourself a goal, then yes, the idea is for us as an organisation to look at what world-class coach development looks like. I think from a Black, Asian and minority ethnic perspective, and I'm conscious that I don't use the acronym that we've used here today, because I don't believe in that acronym. My mum would, God rest her soul, would be turning in her grave if she thought that that's what I was turned out. I'm a Muslim. I'm Pakistani, and you can even call me a Lutonian if you want, but I certainly ain't a BAME. So I find the acronym slightly insulting. I think it's lazy labelling, and I think we need to consider how we can move away from that type of language so that we can actually regain our own identity. So in the respect of Black and Asian coaches in particular, Amrit, I think it's really, really important that we understand that it's nuanced. It's also contextual, because everyone comes from a different standpoint, and actually for me in particular, it's meeting the coaches where they are. So if we look at the professional game, for example, and we see that 35% of players are Black, Asian or minority ethnic, and yet we only have 5% of managers who come from a Black, Asian or minority ethnic background, we realise there's a key disparity there. So we need to question the game. And then we need to question those in the game who look after the game. So, those 5 key authorities: the EPL, the EFL, the LMA, the PFA and the FA. And what we need to do is have a joint approach. But then when we look at the experiences of Black and Asian coaches in particular, I think one of the I use the acronym of RUN. So it's there's an element of racism, and then we need to look at recruitment because it's not transparent and accountable. And then the U is unconscious bias, because there's a lot of that when it comes to employment and hiring as well. And then it's nepotism and networking. And they're the four key significant areas that we need to address to ensure that we get a fair chance. I was asked recently, Amrit, if you had to describe your role to a 5-year-old, what would it be? And it'd be a simple answer. My role is to get our Black and Asian coaches to the start line to run a fair race. Because right now, if it's a 100-meter race, Black coaches are running 110, Asian coaches are running 120, and Black and Asian females are running halfway behind the track. So we need to get develop programs that enable us to get us to the start line. And then it's a competition. And as everyone knows, in a competition, it's a meritocracy. Unfortunately, we don't live in a meritocracy. We live in a meritocracy. And we seem to be hiring people that look like ourselves, as opposed to hiring diverse coaches that actually can add, if given the right environment, can thrive and succeed, and actually add an incredible marginal gain and a competitive advantage that a number of clubs are just missing at the moment. And so for me, it's about influence and impact. It's about keeping the dream alive for those coaches. There's never any day one will not go by where I don't believe in a coach. I believe in every single coach. But also we've got to understand where they're coming from, meeting them where they are, and understanding that, you know, if they're a level 1 coach, it might take a little while to be on the bench at Man United.
Definitely. Brilliant. Thanks, Butch. I'm just going to go back to the chat box. So I've seen that Lee's put a question in. So Noel, if you're still with us, I know you're on panel 1.
Yes,
Noel,
I am.
Noel, so Lee's just said, you mentioned that young Black people aren't forthcoming to step into your shoes, and the others that have trailblazed. What's the one thing that we could do to address that?
It's $1 million question, isn't it, really? I think everyone is referred to it. Sarah made a very good point. I think, I don't know, you need to invite them in somehow and get them to look at why they should expose themselves to what they view as a negative environment. We are creatures of habit. We want to be where we are comfortable. And maybe they look at me as, and I'm not trying to put my head any bigger than it is, but exceptional, because I've stuck with it and they don't realize the joy I get from it. So it's not a chore for me. And I said that all the way through. It's never a chore being involved with football and football related people. But I think if you don't have the love for it, you're very impatient if things don't go your way straight away. I think I don't know. I really don't know if there's a simple answer to it, other than totally do everything to please them, and then, which is wrong, because then you're taking away from other people who should. So I don't think there's a simple answer to it. The ones who possibly could come across, for instance, I mentioned Grafton Barber in Luton. Grafton's got other priorities, but I know he would be someone who would be a good ambassador, another Black person, and he would do equally as good as work as I would, because he's that involved, but he has other things that come across the day that he could be doing these stuff. And I don't think there's an actual simple answer. I think if you feel it, you get involved, and you get to know that, you know, it's something you want to do. And I really, if I had a simple answer, I would give one, but I don't really know what you can do other than make it so easy, and then they don't respect it. It's like when they had, you know, I think everyone argued for a free referee course for Black and ethnic minority, which is terminology similar to Butch. I don't like that vain word. I really hate it. But for our people, and people came on there with never an intention to actually go on a referee. It was a freeman's. It's too easy. You should at least have said, pay it, and if you pass it, we'll give you the money back. You know, so other than make it so easy for them to do it, and then, you know, there is no joy. There is no, you know, you get some expenses for traveling to the Bedfordshire FA. it's not about that. It's wanting to give back. And if it's not in their heart, you really can't bring them in. A lot of people, I think, they want to play and then they walk away. And it's just the way it is. And you may get the odd one who sticks around. They're the ones you got to try to identify. And they're not just out there. You know, you have to recognize the one. And I mean, I really haven't got a simple answer. But I do know that it is a shame that having been involved 22 years, and everyone knows me, they know, you know, and I've got no one who's come along and says, I want to do what you do now, you know, but they're not interested. So I really haven't got an answer. I mean, it's just my feelings and reflection on that situation.
No, and you know,
feel it within it.
Yeah.
So you don't put up with all of the stuff. Just to touch on Bobby's comment about Keith Stroud. Bobby had said he wanted to get involved before, and Keith just came in. And I think the time was just right. Keith came in. There was as we all know, there was an issue at the Bedfordshire FA that was perceived by all the other counties. I personally believe it was a bigger problem than they made out to be. But Keith came in, and it was a gimme for Keith. But I appreciate him because I think he did a good job. But it was easy for him to say, how can I change it? But straight away, he saw what it was. And Sarah's alluded to that. Be brave, be positive, do something different. And Keith did. He said, Bobby, come on board. He actually asked me to be chair of discipline. And I wasn't chair, I was vice chair. And I came in and became chair. So yeah, you need someone to say, well, let's take a chance, let's do something. But at the same token, the recipients have got to want it. Can't give it to them because that's just, they don't appreciate it. And they won't reciprocate it. So sorry if I took longer than you meant.
No, absolutely. No, you made some really good points there. I mean, you said that you didn't have the answer, but, you know, the points that you've made there that contribute to the answer. And, you know, you talk about people coming in with positive action. And you know, we've got trailblazers like you, Butch and Bobby and various other people within counties, within our county and various other counties that have, you know, really paved the way. But it doesn't mean that the next person in line doesn't have to work as hard, if not harder, for that. And you know, that's something that we really got to take into mind. And made a good point about the referee course and how, you know, people just took it as a given. They got complacent, which is unfortunate, but it's something, you know, we can action positively. Thanks for that, Noel.
Can I just make a comment? Come on, Amrit. Yep. You see, you've hosted this event, and I don't think you actually give yourself enough credit. I think Butch did. You are a phenomenal young man, because how many more of people of your age get bobbing with all of this? Very few. You are exceptional. Exceptional people don't come around that often. So I know you feel well about yourself, but you're doing a tremendous job. But you notice that there's no 10 mates behind you trying to do the same thing. So just a bit of praise, but that's the reality of it. You just get one out of the step out, and that's it. No one else follows because for some reason it's not in their heart. This is in you. So I'm doing this, and just another bit. Carry on.
I really appreciate that, and you know, it's such high praise from such people that I have such a high stature of within the footballing community. But like I said, and you know, Butcher said before, is I'm not in this for my sake. It's on about, you know, you guys have fought the real battle here. All I'm trying to do is further that a bit more, and if I can make difference to one person, then I'll be happy. But I really appreciate that, Noel. So just tying things up. Just want to bring in Darren Moss, who's going to help conclude tonight's brilliant event. Just to give you a bit of context, Darren has done loads of work around Bedfordshire, and I'm sure many of you will know. And as Mike's put it in the chat previously, you know, the impact that Lee, Darren, and Butch have had within the communities is still seeking its benefits. So, Darren, can I bring you in?
Of course you can, Amrit. Good evening, everybody. Wow, what acts to follow? And Amrit, I'm just going to follow Noel's eloquent words. Young man, well done. And they're not empty words. I've spoke to you several times this week and last week, and your passion, your drive, your love of people in the game has resonated again. So congratulations on that. I'm conscious of time, but there's a couple of things I want to cover if I can. We need to talk about the crux of the matter and what's been raised about the barriers that fantastic people on this call have faced. We've talked about the stubborn inequalities. We've talked about racism. And that's why we're here. That's why we're talking about that. But let's move forward and say we're talking about it because that's the history. It needs to be remembered. We need to understand that happened. But also we need to look at the other themes that have come through from this evening. Quinton Fortune talked on the Black History Month webinar that the national team did. Some of you would have seen it, about we need more than a month to celebrate the achievements and also the struggles within the Black community. It was mentioned by Noel as well. It was mentioned by Mike Nolan. And we all agree that these values need to be lived. They need to be lifelong. They need to go on what we live, what we breathe as people. But this opportunity does give us a chance to celebrate. I mean, it gives us a chance to look back and reflect on stuff. It gives us a chance to understand. It gives us a chance to talk about what people find uncomfortable talking about. You know, we're talking about people here. And I didn't write a speech. I wrote down notes as I went through. My pad's full. Unbelievable. A couple of things. People. Antonia spoke about a father. Butch talked about his brother. Noel talked about feeling the family when he was with Ebony, how he felt about that. Lee's talked about the influence he's had. It's about people, and that's where we need to be. Bobby talked about family and those barriers at the beginning. Now, let me tell you about Bobby, and let me talk about Bedfordshire FA, and let's talk about Black History Month event. This is the second one I've had the privilege to be involved with, the one with the mentor team, and a lot of people on this call were on it before in 2018. While we were talking about microphones and getting sorted, I had a chat with Bobby earlier on, and it realised that, you know, people resonate through this. What we're trying to do, absolutely incredible. And the two words that stick out are people, but the other one is opportunity. And the word I want to use is opportunity, because I think that's where we move forward from here. Those in privilege, and when I say privilege in this context, I'm talking about FA, county FA, those in authority, those that have got the chance to make a difference. CDO team and DNI now. I'm looking forward to the challenge and supporting Black and Asian coaches and bank coaches across Bedfordshire and beyond. But we need to give that opportunity. We need to give opportunity and make sure we're consistent in doing so. But by saying that also, those that have struggled, had barriers, need to grasp opportunity. Need to take responsibility, come forward and help and work together, because it's collaborative. We need to work together as a team to make sure this works the right way and takes us forward. I have a utopian view of things. I'm a positivist. I like to move forward with stuff. And I want to be in a place where we need to reflect and understand the trials, tribulations, barriers that we've all faced. But where can we go? Where can we work together when we're talking about people and coaching? And that's what we want to work together towards to make this happen. I mean, I think it's absolutely fundamental to us doing that. Steve Smithies has a famous African proverb that he uses a lot, and I'm going to steal it tonight because I use it myself quite a lot. And it's quite straightforward. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. I think we have the opportunity now to go together. We need to move forward, make that difference, work hard, and talk about coaches, talk about football and the family and people that we love around us and make things better. That's where I'm at, Emrit. Back to you.
Wow, Darren, again, what a message. Well, I just can't put it into words, but you just have there, and you know, I'm so excited that you'll be working with us and furthering the development of coaches within this community, and you know, times are really looking up. So Darren, thank you so much. So we're just coming to the end, and it's just a little bit from me, and you know, I'm not going to be able to follow what's come, but there's just two messages. Just thank you to start with. You know, we've talked about all these things, and a big part of this is education, and you have given up your time to educate yourself on these matters and learn about people. And to me, that's such a heartfelt thank you, and it just shows here at the Bedfordshire FA, you know, the community that we serve, such strong-minded individuals, and all the great work that goes on, and you know, like I talked about, the diversity that we have of privilege of serving here, and we want to make sure that we do that in the right way, and serving it is for serving you guys, and you know, really highlighting all the work that you do. Just within this message here from Bob Marley, the greatness of a man is not how much wealth he acquires, but in his integrity and his ability to affect those around him positively. Wow, for that as a message, and you know, it kind of it's a tip of the iceberg from what everything that's been said here, and it's that positive positive action on everyone that's been talked about so much, and that positive action is you guys. That's where that action is at. And everyone within here won't understand just how much of an impact you being here has had, whether it's consciously or subconsciously. You are going to pick up things from being in environments like this that are going to go and change people's life. And we've heard it from every single one. In particular, someone like Lee has talked about his coaches, and the messages that was probably, if you went back to ask his coach now, he probably wouldn't even would have thought that would have such a big impact, but it did. And that's something, as people within this community that we don't give ourselves enough credit. And the second part of that message is, we've alluded to it, of so many fantastic trailblazers within this community, and we've got so many opportunities coming up now. We're going to start getting these people through and getting the people into the right places, which is all the fantastic work that everyone at the FA and various other organisations around Bedfordshire and around nationally are doing. And is that if anything is possible when you have the right people there to support you. And that is our job here at County FA, is that we are here to support you, and supporting you is our number one priority now. And so, whether it's coaching, council, youth council, inclusion, advisory groups, volunteering, refereeing, whatever it may be, I just want everyone to know that we are here. So if you've been listening to this and you know some people that might be interested in doing this, or might be interested in coaching or something around volunteering, then please drop us an email at support@bedfordshire.fa.com. And that this positive action has started, but it's very important for us now that we keep this at the forefront of everything. And just to finally wrap up from the thanks and everything, I'm just going to introduce Bobby again, who's going to just do the finishing remarks for us. So.
Hi all. Just kind of like some final thoughts, really, more than anything else. Just thank everyone for being involved. We've listened to some amazing kind of stories, but I just want to finish with the fact that, as a Luton, the Bedfordshire IAG and Bedfordshire County were so honoured to have so many people join us today and share their experiences. But just to finish and just echo and reiterate what's already been said about a young man here, Amrit, on putting this together, on leading on this. I don't think he fully knows that the importance of what he's actually doing. So Amrit is kind of the opportunity, and Amrit is the future that we've all been talking about today, tonight even. And I just want to kind of pass on my personal thanks to him, and well done. And kind of, in football, you're always learning. And I'm always learning from Amrit, to be honest. And I know a few other people will echo those opinions as well. So thank you very much for taking the time, Amrit, to do this, because it does take individuals like yourselves to put yourself out there and put something like this together. Otherwise, it doesn't happen. So well done, and thank you very much. And thank you all.
So thank you, Bobby, for your very, very kind words. But again, this is for work of yours and Butch and all these trailblazers that have just spoken before me. This is all your work that has come together, and this evening is all from you. And if there's one thing that I know I knew before, and I've got so much more confidence, is there are some fantastic people involved in football, and they're all in here now, and there's so many more that are doing some great work. And the same thing as the slogan says, we're celebrating, and we will continue to celebrate, and we will continue to move forward together, which is the most important thing. I'd just like to thank everyone, especially our presenters. Thank you so much for all your time. I know that I've been on endless phone calls with all of you, nagging your brains for everything, and thank you for being so patient with me, and with all the insight that you've given to us. And now is the time for us to move forward together. Thank you, everyone.